You are listening to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Scott Bywater. Scott is one of the most sought after marketing copywriters in Australia. He runs what many regard as the highest level private marketing group in Australia, Elite Marketers. He is the creator of the online Simple Emails ROI System course, and over the past 21 years has written for gurus and leading companies including Wray, J. Conrad Levinson of Guerrilla Marketing fame, Mercoa.com, and The Learning Annex. As an in-demand speaker, he is also on a mission to help coaches, consultants, and course creators leverage their most undervalued asset, their email list, without being pushy or salesy. Today, we're talking about how to book your calendar solid with AI emails. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Richard. It's really great to be here.
Great to have you here, man. So as I always like to ask my guests, first thing, where in the world are you?
Where in the world am I? I am in Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia, which is about 90 minutes south of Sydney.
Understood. Okay. So look, let's get straight into it, Scott. You've got a really impressive resume. Can you give us kind of a very brief overview of what it is that you do?
Yeah, so in terms of what I do, I'm a professional copywriter, so direct response copywriter, with a particular focus on email marketing, simply because I believe it's a fastest path to the sale. And the thing that's basically what I do week in, week out, is help people monetize and leverage their email lists.
Understood. So when did you first realize that AI could help with your work?
When did I first realize? It was back last year, so 2022. I had a discussion with a guy called John Hubbard, and he's like, "You really should check out this AI." And he was using Jasper at the time, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was a bit skeptical at first about it because I hadn't used it before, and then as I started to use it and tested different things, I'm like, this is pretty interesting. Like, I can see the application of this. I can see how, particularly from a research perspective, that's what impressed me initially, the potential for research, for understanding, because as a copywriter, you do a lot of research, understanding the fears, pains, desires, beliefs, all of that sort of thing of your target market. So that was really powerful. And then when we started to code Jasper with all of these different types of emails, then it was like, oh, I can see how this would be really useful, particularly when I started to talk to people, let's say, about email marketing, and people were like, oh, it takes me like 2 hours to write an email. I'm like, wow, there's something in this. So that's when I first found out AI could work. Later on, I went, or since then, I've gone a bit deeper into it, particularly with when ChatGPT came out. That was like, initially, again, I was skeptical of ChatGPT. I started using it, and it's like mind blown in terms of some of the stuff that it can do is really quite incredible.
And so with ChatGPT in particular, one of the things I've heard many people say is that they can now spot when something's written with ChatGPT. How do you avoid that?
Yeah, so I mean, ChatGPT does some funny things, like when you write emails, like it says something like, I hope you've had a good day, or I forget what the exact wording is, but there's certain things which are giveaways. The way that I tend to use ChatGPT is I use it with transcripts, because one of the dangers we've got with AI, Richard, going forward, is that there's just going to be a lot of slop content, because it's so easy. Like, you press a button and it just punches out all that content. So what does that do? It devalues all the content that's out there and all the copy that's out there. So, but it does and it doesn't, because the greatest quality always rises to the top. I mean, as a human being, as an individual, what do you want to spend your time reading? Do you want to be reading some sort of sloppily written book, or do you want to be reading, Shakespeare, or like something which has really been taken the time to be done well. So AI can work with speed, but when you combine it with transcripts and the right prompts, that's how you can get it across. So it's your voice, your language that's coming through, but you're getting the speed of AI at the same time.
So it sounds like it's actually the preparation prior to using ChatGPT that is the important thing.
The preparation, absolutely, absolutely, and like one of the things I do with ChatGPT is I'll say, hey, give me a like you'll feed it in. Like, there's a couple of things you can do. Number one is you can write copy first, and
Mhm,
then use someone like Clayton Makepeace or Gary Ben's Avenger or something like that to make it even better. Like, so that's a really powerful thing, is
mhm,
you can write okay, decent copy, which gets a message across, and you can get them to do it better. The
mhm,
other thing you can do is you can create the structure. Let's say you want to write a white paper, and you want it to be a 5 or 6 page white paper
mhm.
that someone's going to download from your email list, and then you're going to book them into an appointment from there, or they're going to download it from Facebook and you're using
Yeah.
it for that sort of purpose. So what you do the thinking to create the structure for the white paper. What am I going to talk about first? What am I going to talk about second? What am I going to talk about third, et cetera,
Mhm,
et cetera. So you program that, and then you then voice in your pieces for each piece of that structure. And so what's coming out is it's your structure, it's your transcript, it's your words, it's your
mhm.
knowledge, and you're using ChatGPT to speed up that process so you can get the first draft done very quickly, and then go through and and make the edits and change things around from there.
So in every field, there still needs to be that inherent understanding of the field. It's not a case of, oh, AI is going to take away my job. No, this is actually making your job easier and letting you concentrate on the bits that humans are good at.
100%. Like, I was talking with someone the other day, and he was saying, "Oh man, I've got a friend, and he can do incredible things with Midjourney."
Mhm,
And it said the reason he can do it is because he understands all the artists. He understands art really well. Now, in terms of, let's say, me, I don't really understand art. I don't have deep knowledge in the art field, so I
mhm,
I probably couldn't. So, however, with copy, I know I know I've lived and breathed this stuff
mhm,
for for over 2 decades. So I know who writes a certain way. I know the different writing formats and the writing frameworks. I know when something doesn't read quite right. So I can then go back to the AI and I can program it. I can say, I can create, let's say, something, and then go, okay, now let's say I create a sales letter, and then say, okay, when I make phone calls, I want a phone script, and I want that written by a certain professional. Or, hey, this sales letter is good, but I want 3 emails to follow up, based on Russell Brunson's style, or
mhm.
based on David Ogilvy's style, or based on a certain professional style. So that's how you can sort of program it to actually get what you want, but from your knowledge. And this is why, Richard, I think what's going to become even more important going forward is going to be around understanding the mental models and the frameworks, because it's taken the grunt work out of it, but it hasn't taken the smarts out of the
Mhm.
whole process. And the critical thinking becomes more and more important.
Yeah, when it comes to AI and the sort of tools that we're talking about today, I like to describe it as, it's the democratization of information and the democratization of ideas. So you can bring anybody up from a very low level and get them to a point where they can put content out very fast. And now it's about knowledge and ideas, the real currency becoming ideas. And for me, everything you said there completely ties with that. And I'm seeing it time and time again.
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's about the knowledge, the frameworks, all of that sort of thing.
And a question I've actually asked other copywriters and other people in similar fields, one of the issues that I've seen is, or so not even an issue, I shouldn't call it an issue, but traditional skills seem to be more important than ever. So we've gone through various levels of people abbreviating or using text speak or whatever else. So it's actually being able to use punctuation, grammar is not just good from a point of view of being able to write copy, but actually inputting information or requests into the AI system to get the best results. Is that something you've experienced too?
Yeah, well, like when you're doing so I was writing some sales copy
Hmm.
yesterday, and yeah, it's like that having that knowledge and that
Hmm.
ability allows you to really direct the prompts. So you
Mm.
can say, oh, that prompt isn't quite right.
Yeah.
I need to angle that and really make it focus on something like super specific,
Hmm.
and that can make a really big difference. The other thing I did, one of the other things I did, and this was yesterday as well, we were doing some research and we're like, okay, because we'd taken the time beforehand to do some really good research with the client and understand the USP. I asked them to do the research, but based on the client's USP, and the results it spat out were just so much different as a result of that, and so much more nuanced and
Mm.
specific. So yeah, so the thinking that goes into it is very deep, and I imagine that's going to be across the board. Like, I'm not a coder, but I imagine a coder could make ChatGPT do amazing things that I couldn't, because they know how to direct it and the questions to ask and that sort of thing.
You see, that's where I technically disagree with you a little bit, because in the past, AI or using computers has been about actually telling a computer what to do. Now we're telling it the result that we want. And so I think, the natural language and you shaping your request into a format that is truly understandable is really the skill that is going to be going forward.
Yeah, possibly. Like, I don't understand coding that well. I'm just guessing that
Mm,
they would have nuanced knowledge where
mm,
where they maybe know how to ask it specific questions to
yeah.
get results that I wouldn't. But I do agree in terms of the fact that like it's almost like that hard tech work, and I think it's the same with copy, right? Like, it's that
Mhm,
hard grunt work copy of just going through and perfecting it and all that sort of
mm,
thing, which is sort of become taken out of the process somewhat,
yeah.
because if you know how to direct it, like, just the copy it comes out is just magical. I read it and I go, oh my God, this is just amazing. But the real art form is knowing how to direct it so that you actually get that result. So it's more being a director than anything, which leaves it, like if you're thinking, if you listen to this and you're thinking of career wise, how important it is. I think it's so important to be on these skills now, simply because I think one person will be able to do the job of, let's say 3 to 5 people.
Mhm.
So which is going to possess an interesting situation going forward over the next decade or two.
So in the intro to this, we talked about uh, not being salesy or not appearing salesy with the messages you're sending out. And you've also mentioned sending out messages in the style of certain people. So how do you mix that together to avoid not being salesy or perceived as salesy?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to emails,
Mhm,
my theory is always 95% of the time, or at least 80% of the time, you're leading with value. So what I've seen happen with people with email lists is they make one of two mistakes. So they either go the love letters approach, where they just send great content all the time and they never ask for the sale, or they go the scorched earth approach, where they just pitch, and
mhm,
sooner or later their list is worth nothing, and people just stop responding. So what I tend to do is focus on something called the third way,
mhm,
where each email is adding value, but there's a soft sell at the end, and often that soft sell is to another piece of content which you can download, and then when you download the content, then you get made the offer. So that's how I tend to do it. So, and if you're writing in someone's voice, that's fine, because you can still be compelling and interesting. Like, if you put, let's say, I've done some hilarious emails on sort of summits where we've done live ones, and we might bring Matt Fury on to write an email. When I say bring him on, I enter writing his voice with the AI, and it's just hilarious, right? It's entertaining. It's really funny, and the call to action, you can then just segue into the end to say, hey, get this report to find out more about it. And if people put their hand up for that report, then they can see the call to action. I actually find that does work more effectively than just, particularly if you're, let's say, offering services as versus just, asking them to book a time into your calendar or that sort of thing.
So it sounds like you're actually structuring an approach, but then you can really get into personalization for the people that these messages are going to go out to. As you say, you can have Matt Fury, you could have, a variety of people in styles, depending on who the target is, but with the same structure of what you want as the outcome.
Yeah, and you can have your own style too. If let's say it's email marketing, you can program the AI to write like you. So it's quite personalized and all of that sort of thing. So it just depends on what the purpose of the copy or the content is and how you want it to come across. So when I was writing this sales letter yesterday, I wanted it to be like someone like Clayton Makepeace is very, he's sadly passed away now, but he was an amazing copywriter in terms of he was hard hitting and direct and all of that sort of thing. Then you've got someone like Matt Fury, who's incredibly entertaining and colloquial in terms of the way he writes. And then you've got Gary Benzavenger, who's he's still very hard hitting. He's arguably the greatest, modern day copywriter. But one of the things, but he's not overly aggressive. So and not as controversial as, let's say, someone like your Clayton Makepieces and that sort of thing. So it's knowing the style and when to use each style, and you can always go in and edit it and make it more like you as well afterwards.
Understood. So have you found any resistance from people that you've been working with to use this approach?
I find most people are fairly open to the concept of AI. One thing I've steered away from up until now is using it in like blog posts and all of that sort of thing, just because I'm not sure of how the SEO is going to relate to AI type of content going forward. And it's a great thing to do with research with your clients real time, is where you bring it up, I'll often do that when we're doing research and bring up the AI, and they can see it coming out, and they're just like, wow, this is like, I did it with a builder recently. He's like, can you get something that builds houses like this? It's I said you have to wait 10 years for that one. So it's quite incredible what it can do. But web copy and SEO based copy, I've steered away from it up until now.
Okay. And do you have a good example where you think that AI has maybe given you a better result than you would have had normally?
I think, overall, just the copy that comes out of it is just, potentially if you provide the right framework. So I haven't done any like really specific dived in and done split tests where I go, get half a dozen AIs and get the AI to do it and get me to do it and all that sort of thing. But just from a research perspective, once you've done that research, the copy that comes out is just like, it's just so much better just because you've taken the time to do the research. So you can do what would normally take you, you and I might need to get together, let's say, to discuss the fears of people reading the AI, listening to the AI Advantage show. What are their fears? So you and I might need to get up, do some research, and it takes like half an hour to work out their top 10 fears. I can press a button in AI and find that out in about 30 seconds. So the time savings on that is just massive in terms of what you can get done at speed and actually enhancing the quality, because you can actually do a far better job with the AI, just because, like if I write some okay copy, like let's say, like I'm not even putting my all into it. I'm just getting the structure right. And then I say, write this like Gary Benzavinja or like Clayton Makepeace. Oh my God, it comes up way better. Even if I said write it like Scott Bywater, it would come up way better. Yeah, and you're using the AI just to get that unfair advantage. If you're not using it, I just think you're at such a disadvantage. It's like
Somebody else will do.
yeah, well, it's like having a horse and cart, and yeah, I'm sitting there in my Ferrari. Well, you just can't compete. Yeah, it's just not
Absolutely.
possible if you don't have these tools, and it's all happened very quickly. All happened very quickly. We hadn't heard about AI. 90, I mean, we had heard about AI, but we hadn't heard about ChatGPT like 5 months ago.
Yeah, it's
So
very,
it's
very much
crazy.
the zeitgeist of what's happening. So there's amazing benefits as you've talked about today. What are the pitfalls that you think people could fall into with this?
I think the number one pitfall, particularly with copy, is just punching out generic copy without
Mhm.
thought. So because what happens then is it damages your brand, it damages all your
Mhm.
it damages your relationships with your customers. It just sounds like generic nonsense. And I think that is the biggest pitfall with with the AI sort of side of things. So we should be using it to think more deeply and to bring a better end result. And I think that's really the key with AI. But that from a copy perspective, I mean, I can see a number of pitfalls with AI like across the board. But from a
Mhm.
copy perspective, it's just like, because you got this tool, you got to punch out content where there's no thought that's been put into it. It's not unique to your brand, all of that sort of thing. It does more harm than good.
The public are going to notice. They're going to get tuned to what is AI, and it's probably going to become a pejorative. It's like, oh, that was written by AI, as opposed to content that still feels like it's been written by a human.
Yeah, and quality always rises to the top, Richard.
Mm.
It always rises to the top. Like right now, we have there's all sorts of cars that you can buy, right? You can buy a Corvette for probably $500,000, or you can buy and they achieve the same thing essentially, like in terms of getting around, or you can buy probably a car for like $10,000, or a beat up old second-hand car for $2,000. So
Mhm.
there's a big variety, but we would all prefer. Well, we wouldn't all prefer to be riding in a Corvette, but most of us would prefer to be riding around in a better quality car.
Yeah.
And it's the same with content. What do you want to read? Sloppy content with no thought out of that's come from it, written by an AI bot with no knowledge of the person behind it? Or do you want to read content where a lot of thought's been put behind it and it's still got the human strategic mind behind it, but it's being leveraged with it's just being made better and sped up via the AI. And that's a way to think about it. Because if you've got a lot of knowledge and you can put it out there and you can share 3 to 5 times more of that knowledge because of AI, but it's still your knowledge. I mean, that's got to be a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
So
So the old adage of content is king is truer than ever.
I think content is king because you look at what people are doing all the time. They're consuming content. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're a teenager at 15 years old and they're watching YouTube and they're
Mhm.
doing all of these sort of things. They're consuming content, or if you're like 50 or 60 and you're reading different publications, everyone's reading content, but everyone wants to read quality content that
Mhm.
they resonate with. So if the content goes up, 50 times as a result of AI, if it multiplies 50 times, I don't see that as like then, but there's only the same amount of eyeballs that can read the content,
Mhm.
and they're going to be going for the quality.
Understood. So based on that, then, if the listeners were to take away one piece of advice from you today, what would it be?
I think it's use AI to make your quality better by thinking strategically about that content and getting the prompts right and that sort of thing. But focus on quality.
Yeah.
Don't focus on generic, heartless, not heartless, but generic, heartless sort of quantity. of content. So yeah, it doesn't give you an excuse to let go of quality in what you're writing.
That makes complete sense. So Scott, where can people find you, and what's the big project or new thing that you've got coming up that you'd like people to know about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the best place to find me is go and download. I've got an AI cheat sheets report, which is, you'll find it simpleemailroi.com/AI. So you can download that cheat sheets report there. Alternatively, go to copywritingthatsells.com.au, and which is my main website if you want to find out more about me there. So either of those two places you'll find me.
Fantastic. Well, Scott, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, no, thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me. You asked some great questions.
Thank you. Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before you go, if you'd like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.